In last session, we discussed about triggers. A complete session or dedicated one for triggers. And in this session, let's see what are the things that you have to keep in mind. I mean, something related to T-SQL programs. Okay, an important one to remember whenever you want to write a complex stored procedures or complex functionality for any object in the SQL Server, you need to know all these things. First one is we call few things as batch. So go is the keyword which you will use to end the batch or to say this is the last point of the batch. Batch is nothing but collection of T-SQL statements. Let's say print I am a trainer, print I am not a trainer. So this is collection of statements. This is called as one batch, and this go statement will say this is the end of this particular batch. Go is to generally people use to separate. Whenever they are creating a table and inserting a table in the same time at the same time, then they need to go for this terminator, that is go statement between the create table and the insert table. To execute this, the first two will be executed as one batch, and if I give 2 after this go, the same thing will be looping through 2 times. If I give 10, you can see the same beginning execution loop. I am a trainer, I am not a trainer, I am a trainer, I am not a trainer, and so on. You can loop through 10 times. So this go, keep in mind, go is the one which says the end of the batch. This is the end of the batch. Generally people go for like this: create table and blah 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 table statement, and they will say this is the end of the create table, and then they will write insert statements for the same, and then again they will mention this is the end of insert statements, and then they'll go for different table creation. So they will separate each and every batch of statements using the go statements. This is one thing you need to know, you need to remember. And another one is use keyword. We have used it many times, and I don't know how many of you guys know what's the exact purpose of it. If while executing something, if you want to change the database, for example, you have 3 insert statements, one insert, and one insert. Remember, think that this is a complete statement. Don't think that insert is a statement here. Insert and I have some code. I have not written it. Okay. In the same way, I have some insert statement. And the first statement needs to be executed in the database AdventureWorks DW. And the second statement to be executed in the database MSBI. You can see the database name MSBI here. And the third one to be executed in Quick Analytics. So how to do that dynamically? So the one way is first point to this AdventureWorks, execute this, and then come back, point to this MSBI and execute this, and the third one come to select the Quick Analytics and execute the third one. This is one way, and the other way is using the keyword use AdventureWorks DW. That means it will select the AdventureWorks DW, and this guy will be executed. And again use MSBI, and the third one use Quick Analytics. So using this option, keyword use, you can select the database. For example, let me show you. If I execute this, what will happen? The database will be selected to MSBI. You can see on top it is selected to MSBI. This will select Quick Analytics, and if I select this will select AdventureWorks DW. So this is the use of the keyword use. And next thing, commenting part. Generally we use double icon to comment the code. This is commented. So, and you can see the commented code in green color. If it is commented, then you can see it in green color. Let's say you have a select statement like this. Select column 1, column 2 from table 1 var condition. So if you want to add some commenting code for each and every line, then you can do like this. For every line you can have, these are all the columns selected. This is the comment for the first line, and this is the table from where we are reading data. In the same way, you can add comments. So this is how you can go for comments. You can go for commenting, and there is multi-line commenter also. That is very well known. Whatever you want, you type in the middle. Now everything in the middle is commented. So these are all the three different ways you can use commenting part. Now let's see how to declare a variable. Declare let's say variable name data type. So the example is declare. You have to prefix @ before the variable name. @temp data type is integer. Now when I execute this, a data type temp will be created. Sorry, a variable temp will be created with the data type integer. And if you want to go for more, temp1, temp2, temp3, all the three. And if you feel that you don't want to define or declare again and again, then use comma separator, remove the declare. Use comma, remove the declare. Declare, use comma. So this is how you can define more than one. It can be anywhere, any data type. Varchar of 100. This can be float. This can be money. So this is how you can define the variables. Now, how to set the values to the variables? Let's see that. Setting the values to the variables is using the set command is one way. Set @temp, it is showing all the variables that are defined in this particular query window. Temp is equal to 1. Set @temp1 is equal to Rupesh. Set @temp2 is equal to, let's say, 200. Now I will use print statement to print the same. Print @temp. What will be the output if I execute the complete thing? You can see it is defining these variables, and it is assigning the values to the variables, and it is printing the same. Let me print all the three that I have. 2 and 3. To execute all the three, the first and the second is showing, but what is the third one? Sorry, it should be temp1. Temp3 is empty, right? So now we will get the first, second, and third one. So this is how you can define variables and assign values to the variables. There is one more way assigning the values to the variables, that is using select statement. Here we use set statement, right? Instead of set, we can use select. What I'm going to do is I'm going to comment this stuff up to here. Now select @temp is equal to 1. To execute this, it is getting 1. And comma @temp1 is equal to Rupesh, comma @temp2 is equal to 5,000. Now if I execute this, it's the same story. If you want to assign more than one value, one variable value at a time, then better go for the select statement. it can be done in one statement, whereas set statement, you have to define individual separately. So this is one way you can assign values to the variables. Why I am explaining all these things now? The concepts what we are going to discuss from now is cursors, indexes, or not cursors, store cursors, functions, and indexes. So these four are the pending things that we have in advanced concepts, and today we are going to discuss cursors, and tomorrow functions and store cursors, which needs this stuff a lot. All these things like declaring and assigning values. And now let's see how to assign values to the variables from a table. Let's say select @ temp1, which is integer, right? Oh, sorry, which is variable, string data type, right? Is equal to English product name from dim product, where product key is equal to 7. So what I'm doing here is I'm getting the English product name from the dim product table, where product key is equal to 7. If I execute this query, I'll get some value, that is ml crankram or something. Okay. If I set this as select @ temp1 is equal to the same, then it will be assigned the value to the particular one. And you can see the value is still 1, the value is still 5000, but temp1 I assigned after the execution of this select statement. So that is why it is shown like this. And you can go for the same. In the same way, temp is equal to product key from so-and-so table. You can see the product key is coming now in the result set, that is 7. And in conditions, you can go for variables also. For example, if I set it as 7, okay, I'm setting the temporary variable as 7 here, and I'm getting the select temp of 1 is equal to English product name, where instead of product key is equal to so and so, I can go for temp1. So get the value from temp1. I'm setting as 7, right? So it will get crankram. If I set it as 17, if there is any product related to 17 product key, then it will get that. And we have, and the value is mountain edge cap. So this is how you can use variables for assigning the values using select statement, or you can use the variable value in the filter condition to filter the data that is being coming from the database. And let's say if I don't have this condition, I'm commenting it out. See, in the same line I'm commenting just by double quotes. If I execute this, it's getting the first product only one product value, that is road 750, black 52. How to get all the products? Coalesce function, coalesce of English product name. I'm taking this temporary variable plus I'm concatenating a comma separator plus English product name, comma English product name. I'll explain you what's happening here. Okay. If I do this, it will throw error mostly, or it is not throwing error. It is getting only first few products, which will form 100 characters. I have given 100, right? If I want to define the maximum length, I can go for max. So now if you see, it's different. You can see all the products. What I'm doing here is this coalesce function. What it is doing is it will coalesce this value. First it will get this value, first value, English product name, and then assign to temporary variable. So I'll show you that. It will take this, assign to temporary variable, and next time this guy will have the first value plus it will concatenate with this English product. So this process will repeat till the end until all the products are reached. So if you have multiple values and if you want to assign the values with some separator like comma or hyphen, you can go for college statement. Now let's see if-else statements. There will not be in else if and so on. There will be a simple if statement. If some condition, then statement. So like if 1 is equal to 2, then print I am a stupid. So if I execute this, obviously it will not be executed. Why? Because 1 is not equal to 2. So the condition, the first query, we will have condition. This is a simple condition I have taken. Generally, you will have you can set so many conditions. Like, for example, let me take the product temporary variable. At the rate of temp is equal to 15, then type I am stupid. It is not typing the I am stupid. Why? Because I set it to 17. Let me change it to 15. And now you can see I am stupid. So you can have some condition. On some condition, you can redirect it. The code that is present under the if statement, and if you see, this is the code that is present under the if statement, will be executed only when the condition is evaluated to true. The condition whatever we have given is evaluated to true. And what if I want to have more than one in the if statement? Let's say I am giving I am stupid number 2. Okay, this guy is number 1. So if you observe, I have two statements under if, and I'm taking 17 again, which means it should not show. But if I execute, it is showing I'm a stupid number 2. It is not showing stupid number 1, that is fine, but it's still showing stupid number 2. The reason is, after the if condition, it will take only one statement as the part of this if statement. It will read this if, and the first statement is one batch. So how to make more than one statement after if as one batch? So to do the same, go for begin. From here you are beginning the statements, batch and end. Now after this F, it will start with begin and it will reach up to the end. Until end, it will treat it as one batch. And now you can see it is not showing the value and stupid. If I set it to 15 again, it will show the value saying that I'm stupid. So this is how you can go for batch, begin and end with begin and end, and the if statement. So you can also have the else condition. Okay, this is fine. If so and so, I can go for else, and I can type something like this. I'm stupid number 3. So if I execute this, it is showing stupid number 1. Why? Because the evaluation condition is, the condition of the if statement is evaluating to true, and that is why it is showing like that. Now if I change it to 16 or 17, it will go to the else statement. Why? Because this condition is failed. So it will skip this part and it will go to the else part, and it will show print I'm a stupid number 3. And again, if you want to go for the same story like the if part, you can go for begin and end. In between, you can have more than one statement. This is just a dummy statement, print statements I'm giving in the begin and end part. You can have so much of functionality like inserting or deleting. Let's say if the product key number is equal to 7, then delete it. If the product key is not equal to 7, then insert it. You can have that kind of functionality. Like here, instead of this print statement, you can write a delete, insert, or update, or some other functionality, whatever you want. And in the same way, you can write some functionality here instead of the print statement. So our intention is to know how to provide the if statements, how to make use of, how to use if statements in SQL Server, and that is why I have taken pretty simple functionality in the if and else part. The next one is exists with the if. For example, if exists, exists, I can have some condition, then begin, end. You can have some part of it. That means you can select something like select star from, you should know some tables. Select star from sys tables. Sorry. Not sys tables. Sys dot databases. What it will do is it will give you all the databases. Okay. And similarly, we should have something called tables, which will give all the tables that are present in the particular database that you are pointing to. Now, you can check for some condition. Okay, if a table is present, then don't create. If it is not present, then create. Let me write a simple statement to demonstrate the same. I'm going for the condition. Select star from sys tables or anything. Select name from sys table, any one column. Here it will check and return either true or false, whether it is present or not. I'm giving some condition where name, I have to give some condition to check something, right? I'll go for test, where name is equal to test. What it will be evaluated to? It will be evaluated to true. So I'm printing I am true. Else print I am false. Okay. Now let me execute this. It is showing I am true. Why? Because this table exists. Okay. And if it is not present, let's say this is the table name, you can get I am false. Now the condition, people will write like this whenever they are creating the scripts for creating the tables. Okay. Then they'll go for conditions like this. If exists, select stars, select name from the sys tables where name is equal to so and so. If present, then drop table, test, go and create a table. So always they'll go like this. Some condition they will check and then they'll do some inserts and updates. Now I have given something, right? You can see I'm dropping the table and I'm creating the table. And here in the else part, if it is else, then directly I can go for begin and end. In between I can go for this part. So this is how you can go for the statements. It is saying some syntax problem at else part. Okay. Now we can see it is dropped and created. If you have any queries, you can go for the test table structure. It will have only one ID, one column, that is ID. So this is how you can go for some condition checkings using if statement and exist statement. Okay. Now let's see the while loop. While condition, that's it. So this while loop will loop through until the condition is evaluated to true. Let's see an example. What is the value we set for temp? Temp value is 17 we set. Now while @temp, okay, is less than, let's say it is 17, right? I'll go for greater than 0. Observe this condition, what I'm giving. Begin, end. Okay. While @temp is greater than 0. That means until it becomes 0, it will be looping through. Print @temp. I'm printing the value. If I execute this, it will be executing continuously. Why? Because the temp will be 17 and the value 17 will be continuously printing and there will not be any end. So while going for looping, there will be a decrement operator or increment operator. Decrement in the sense say @temp is equal to @temp minus 1. Okay, so they're setting the value. They're decrementing the value by 1. So first time it will be 17, that is greater than 0. So it will print 17 and it will decrement it. And again loop back 16. Loop through like that until it becomes 0. So if I execute this, you can see 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 9, 8, 7 and so on, 1. If I set it as greater than or equal to minus 20, then what will happen? It will go till minus 19. So this is how you can decrement the value. You can go for plus to increment the value. So without having this decrement value, if you set something in while loop, then it will go for endless. If you set some, the value will be 17, and if you just print it, and it will be continuously going. You can see it is typing 17, 17, 17, 17, 17. Why? Because you are not decrementing, and this condition will not be evaluated to true, and it will be like this till the end. So there is no end for this looping part. So always keep in mind while going for loop part, you need to have either decrement or increment operator which will stop the loop at a particular condition that is as per the requirements. Now using this while loop, you can do some functionality like inserting or deleting. While let's say you want to insert 20 records. We have a temporary table, right? You want to insert 20 records into the same. I'm setting it to 0. Okay. And here I'm setting the temporary variable. I'm modifying the temporary variable value to 100. From 100 greater than 0 begin. I'm not printing it. I'm inserting. Insert into temp table or test table? Test, right? Test. Values. In the values, I'm giving temp. The temp value will be increasing, decreasing, right? Let's see how, oops, it will go for endless loop. I have not set the decrement operator. So let me set the same. @temp is equal to @temp minus 1. So I've set it. Before going to that, let me delete the table. I should not have any records in that, right? See, already 2,666 records inserted within a short period of time. Now I executed it and it is completed. Now let me go to the select statement and see what data inserted. This is a simple example for using DML statement in the while loop. You can have complex functionality. You can have the functionality that you wish to have. It's not that you have to go for short and simple one like this. So whatever the SQL query you want to execute, DML statement you want to execute, you can go for it in this one. Let's say go to statement. The most frequently used one. Go to generally it will take you to the label. For example, if a label in the sense LAB, I'm naming it as label. If I set its colon here, if I set a colon next to the label, next to any keyboard, then it will become a label. Print I am hero. Okay. Now how to go to the label? Here using the keyboard, go to, you can call the label. So you are calling the go to label here. 1 second, it is showing some error. I'm calling go to label, okay, and the label has this code, this following code, and here I have another code, print, I'm testing. So what will happen generally? If I execute this, it has to type I'm testing label and then it has to go to the label and so on. But if I execute this, you can see it is showing I am hero. This go to label, what is the use of this one is go to label, it will search for this. After the keyword go to, if there is any text, it will take the text and it will search with the label name. And you should have a label defined for that. Label in the sense with the text, yeah, and followed by colon. and whatever the code that is present under that, it will be called instead of this one. So let me take one more, and hero 1 and so on. If I execute this, it will go to the label and it will be executed. The execution path will jump into that. After reaching the go to, it will check, it will search for this go to this lab, and it will find, once it finds here, then the execution path will continue from here. So the code that is in the middle will be skipped. Where you will use this? What is the use of this? Let's say you have a big stored procedure where whenever an error encounters, it has to throw the error message. So you can check for some condition here. If error count or error rows is greater than 0, then go to label. Like that, you can define the label once and you can use the label again and again in the code. So that is one use. This is called as label functionality, which will be used very frequently in stored procedures. And the next one to see is sp_help. Actually, this is a system stored procedure which is used to give the complete details about any table. So if you see, this is the table sp_help test. I'm giving the table name. It is giving what is the table name, who is the owner, that means schema type, and what is the type. It is a user table, and when it is created, what is the columns that are present. I have only one column and it is giving that particular column, data types and identity columns present or not, and row GUID and so on. Let's say I'll give team product. We'll get more information like all the columns information, what is the data type and so on. So this is how you can use sp_help to get the table information, and for all other objects information like functions, triggers, stored procedures and so on, you can go for sp_help text. I don't remember any trigger names. Let me get some trigger names. Select star from sys objects. And in that you can find stored procedures. These are all the stored procedures with the name x type as S. And let's see whether we have anything called T. U means user table. P means primary key. UQ means unique key. F means foreign key, and so on. You can see all these things, right? V means view. Fn means function. And let me go for some trigger. I don't find anything. Okay, I'll do one thing. I'll take the stored procedure. This is a system stored procedure, and if I go for sp_help text and the system stored procedure name does not exist in database, it is invalid. I can't go for that. Okay, I think I have a couple of views where type is equal to B. Okay, this is a view. And sp_help text, if I go for this, it will give you the text that is used, or the complete view code, or function code, or stored procedure code, or trigger code. Whatever the code you have written, you can get that by using this. While altering the stored procedure or function or any stuff, you need to know what is the code written. So this system's function, system stored procedure sp_help text helps you a lot in that aspect. I mean, this is very, very, very useful one, and you will use it very frequently in projects. So keep in mind sp_help text to get the text of a particular object like stored procedure or function or views or anything of that sort except the table. Table you can use sp_help followed by table name. Okay. Now let's see the next topic, cursors. Cursor is kind of pointer to the row. It will point to a single row in a particular data set. Data set is nothing but collection of data, right? Where you have 10 records, 50 records, 100 records. A select statement is a data set. The output of the select statement is a data set. So what pointer will do is it will be pointing to one row at a time so that you can get that values and execute it. People say that cursors always kills the performance. It is not the good one to go with. But in few cases, you need to go for cursors. That's the best option in the remaining different ways that you have. Now, these cursors will have 5 different parts, I can say. The first one is declaring. The second one is opening. Third one is fetching. Fourth one is closing. Fifth one is deallocating. These are the 5 different steps that are available in the lifespan of a cursor. So declaring, opposite is deallocation. Opening, closing. And in the middle, you will have fetching. Fetch is required to fetch the next row. I told you it will be pointing to one row at a time. Let's say you have these records in a table, and it will be pointing to one row at a time. So first it will be pointing to this. When you go for fetch next, it will be pointing to next row, and then it will be pointing to next row. Whenever the fetch next, it will be taking to the next row, or depending on what you specify there. We'll discuss about each and every part here. First, let's see how to declare a cursor. This is the place where you will find a different structure. Generally, you will use, for defining any object, you are using create procedure name, or create a trigger name, or create index name, and so on. But here you will use declare, and you will give cursor name first, and then you will define the cursor. So declare cursor name, cursor, followed by some options. You can provide some options. It is not mandatory. If you don't specify also, it will take the default option, and you will have for select statement. Okay, what it will do is it will initiate a trigger with this name on this select statement. I told you trigger will be nothing but a data set pointing to one row at a time, right? Here the select statement will pull the records. It will have some records, and this cursor will be pointing to the first row by default. And when you declare the cursor, it won't fill the data. That means it won't pull the data. Only when you open the cursor, it will pull the data. Now let's see how to opening the cursor. That is simple. Open, name of the cursor. Okay, this is how you can open the cursor. And the next one is fetching the next value of the cursor. And here the syntax is fetch direction, how you want to get. I'll explain you about this direction also. Fetch direction from cursor name. What is the name of the cursor? Specify the cursor name into some variables. So what you will do is you will get the data from the select statement row by row, and you will fetch it into the variables. You will load it into the variables to use it. And if you see one example, you will get clear picture then now. Then next one is closing. That is close, name of the cursor. And here it will be closed, but the definition will be still there. You can reopen it. It is just closing the cursor. If you want to completely deallocate, then deallocate, name of the cursor. So after deallocation, the cursor will be not available in the database. Okay, this is how you can go for the cursor. This is the life cycle of the cursor. That is first declare and open, fetch next, or fetch any particular record, and then loop it through and close it, and then deallocate it. And before going to the example, we need to know a couple of system functions which will help us in getting the status of the cursor. Let's say the first one is cursor underscore rows. So if you open any cursor, let's say you open the cursor here. After that, you can check the rows. How many rows are there using this select statement? For example, after opening the cursor, what I said, after opening the cursor, the data will be pulled into that. And you can check how many rows are there, and based on that, you can go for the condition. Like, man, if I have this many rows, then go to the next step or loop through. If I have 0 rows, then don't go to the next step. You can make use of this at the rate of cursor rows to get the number of rows that are present in the cursor. And the next variable, next function that is useful is system global variable. I can say fetch underscore status, the most frequently used, the must and should used one in cursors. So this guy will get the status of the cursor. There will be fetch statement, right? After fetch, you will go for fetch status. What happened to the last fetch? If you have 3 possible values, 0, -1, -2. 0 means the record is read successfully. That means there is data and it read it. And this one, there is no data. And this one, there is data, but they deleted it. Deleted data, we can say it as. So this is very rare cases. We will encounter this very rarely. And first 2, there is chances of encountering the first 2 in every loop through. That is 0. That means there is some data. There is some record read successfully. And -1 means there is no data or there is some problem or something kind of. So now let's see. Before going to this, let's discuss a little bit about the use of cursors. Let's say you have a data, you have 100 records and you have to loop through and you have to check some condition. If the value is greater than 100, then add 10%. If it is less than 100, then add 20%. So in that case, you can, if you want to loop through every record and have some functionality on the looping part, then the cursors is the best option available. And there are a couple of other options, that is writing so many update statements. Instead of that, cursors plays a better role. Now, we have seen what are all the different fetch statuses we have, and what is the use of cursor rows, which will fetch the number of records that are present. Now, the next one we need to know which is the best combination for cursor is while loop. Already we discussed about this while loop, how it works. So the while loop plus cursor will make the job done. So let's see a simple example. Declare. I'll give the cursor name as cur name cursor. I'm not specifying any options. Cursor options, I told you, right? In declaring, you have cursor options. I'm not specifying anything. If you don't specify, it will take the default one. Leave it for now. For select English product name from dim product. So now the cursor is defined. I'm opening the cursor. Open cursor name. Now the cursor is opened. Once the cursor is opened, what will happen is the data will be fetched into the cursor. What is the next step? Fetch next. Fetch, I have to set the direction, next or backward or forward. I'm going for next. That means it will get the next record. Okay. Fetch next from cursor name, that is cur underscore name, into, by getting the value where you want to deploy it, where you want to set that. To set the value, this is an English product name, right? I need to define a variable, right? I'm declaring at the rate of var1 as varchar of 150. So try to observe it carefully. I defined a variable and I declared the cursor on the select statement, select English product name from dim product. I'm opening the cursor and fetch next record from the cursor into at the rate of var1. So it will read the first record here and it will get the it will assign the value to the var1 variable. Now here we will check for the status while at the rate of fetch status is not equal to, is equal to 0. That means It is successfully read. There is some data. Then print. I'm printing at the rate of variable 1. The data that is being inserted into the variable 1 using fetch next part. Okay. If I loop through it, it will be looped continuously. But the problem is always it will have the same record. The first record only will be there. It is not fetching the next record. So what I said, it has to be incremented or decremented. I can do that by using the same again. So here it will read the first record, and here it will read the second record. It will loop through again and again and again and again until the fetch status is equal to -1. Let me finish the syntax first. Okay, this is the while part I have written. Now the job will be done. The looping part is completed. Close cursor name and deallocate cursor name. So if you observe this syntax, what I have done is I have declared a variable to hold the data that is being fetched by the looping part of the cursor. Here I am defining a select statement. That is, I am defining a cursor on the select statement, select English product name from dim product. So it will get all the English product names once I open the cursor. Okay. Here I am fetching the next value, means first value in this case, into the variable var1, and I am checking the fetch status, whether it is 0 or not. That means whether it read successfully or not. Yes, it read successfully. So good enough. We can begin, and I'm asking the server to print the value that is being fetched and fetching the next value. So this will be looped. This loop part will be continued until the last record is read. Once the last record is read, the fetch status will become -1. Right? I showed you that. What are the 3 different options we can get? So it will become -1. So it will come out of the loop. That means here it will close the cursor and it will deallocate the cursor. Let's see whether it works or not. Okay. I'm executing this part. And if you see, it is reading through all the records and printing the same. If you want to have some functionality here instead of printing, you can make use of it. Like if condition is so and so, like if at the rate of var1 is equal to, let me go for forken, some product name I'm checking, forken, then print I got it. Okay. Now let me execute this. Now it will loop through all the records. It will get all the data. It will loop through all the records, and only when I get the forken, I'm printing I got it. Instead of that I got it, I can add some functionality like do something, delete something, insert something, update something. You can add any functionality that you wish to. Okay. Now the options part, we have not specified anything here, right, for options. While defining the cursor before for, you can select the options part here. There are many options, like the first one is static. You can define it as static. So it will become a static cursor. What static cursor will do is it copies all the data into a tempdb. The select statement data is there, right? Once you open the cursor, what it will do is it will pull all the data and it will store to the tempdb, and that is, it will be disconnected. So that means when all the records that are present in this table is copied to tempdb, then let me draw that and show you. This is your original table, and you are using select English product name from dim product. And what it will do is when it opens the cursor after defining it as static, it will copy all the stuff into tempdb. Okay, the output of the select statement. Now, if I make any changes here while this is looping through, okay, when the cursor is looping through all the records, and when I make any changes, it will not have any impact here, right? Why? Because it's copied, the static one. Once the data is read, it will become static and there is nothing called changing part. Why? Because it will not have any access to the original baseline table. It is reading the data from a temp DB. That is the static keyword in cursor definition options, cursor options. And the second one is key set is there. What key set will do is, if I have a big select statement, select up to column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, column 5, and so on, like column until column 10 from a table name in the select statement of like a select statement of the cursor definition, then it will get the minimum number of columns that are required to uniquely define the value. Let's say if 3 columns are required to uniquely define all these. If I have 3 columns information, then I can join and get the information kind of. So let me take that. Let's say this is your table with 10 columns, and into the temp data set, what it will do is it will take how many columns that are required to uniquely identify every row. Let's say 3 columns, and it will loop through these three columns in the tempdb database. First, it will take this record. It will take these 3 records and join this table with these 3 columns, and you will get one record, right? That record will be fetched. And it will take the second record. These 3 columns, it will join with this table and get the complete record. So it won't copy the complete columns that you are given in the select statement of the cursor definition. It will copy only few records. Okay, the few records that are enough, that are needed to identify the rows in the correct order, it will be copied into the temp DB. And this is how it works, the key set cursor option. Okay, and there is possibility, right, of getting the fetch status is equal to -2. Why? Because the record will be copied here, but the record can be deleted here when the looping is going through. Let's say I have 1 million records. When it is looping through each and every record, somebody can delete record here. So the status of chance of getting fetch status is equal to -2 is available in this particular cursor option type. And the third value is dynamic. Instead of the static, you can go for dynamic. That means it won't copy anything into the temp data. It will directly iterate through the original data. That is the data that is present in the real table. And if you make any changes to the real table, immediately the cursor can see the changes. It is not like static. It is not copying the data into the temp DB, right? So it is not static. It is dynamic, and it can see the data. And forward only is there, which will fetch only next data. And there are a couple of other which are not high priority, and there is one that is called fast forward. What this fast forward will do is, this is the best cursor that is available, and it is the super fast performance wise. It will take you only in one direction, that is forward direction, and it is like a read only, forward only dynamic cursor. And you can set one more option here before the static. You can set whether it's a local or global. If you set this as local, then cursor will live only in the scope of this batch. Where this is executing, only until that scope this cursor will be available. If it is global cursor, then it will be available in the whole connection. That is the difference between local and global. And the next option, as I told you, forward only and scroll. If you select forward only, it will take you only in one direction, that is positive. Now it will take you in sequential forward only reading. That is, next record can be read sequentially. That's it. You cannot read the first record or the last record. You can see, right, the direction here. This can take next or first or last or something else. There are so many options. If you set it as forward only, what will happen is it will go to the next record. You can make use of only next here. Okay. If you go for scroll, it will enable all the different resources like first, last, some different types are there. We'll discuss about that. So that is the difference between forward only and scroll options. And the remaining things you know very well, that is static, key set, dynamic, and fast forward. Set of the same options. Under that options, you can provide whether it is a read only or scroll logs or optimistic. Read only will read the data. It won't support writing the data. I mean, if some other guy is writing or updating, it doesn't support the updating part. Whereas scroll logs, what it will do is it will log every record that is reading. For example, if it is reading the 5th record, it will log that record so that the other person cannot update it from anywhere. Okay, that is the difference. And optimistic, you are very well aware. Optimistic, it will go for an assumption that no deadlocks will occur, and this optimistic will use the row versioning concept. There are so many different options. If you see, right now we discussed like global, local, forward only, scroll, static, key set, dynamic, fast forward, read only, scroll logs, optimistic, and so on. But most frequently people use as forward only, or they'll go for forward only, read only, or they'll go for fast forward. So these are categorized into three, the one we discussed. The first one is local or global. This is the options part, right? This is the options part. I can give local or global. Any one thing I can select. Okay. The next option is static or key set or dynamic or fast forward. And the third value you can give in the same is whether it's a read only or scroll, logs, or optimistic. Okay, these are the different options. Either you can go for local or global. Let me remove this and explain each and everything here. And if it is local or global, you know very well. It will be local to this particular batch, or else it will global means it will be for the whole connection. Let me go for local. Most of the cases people go for local. And the second one is you can go for any one. Static. Static in the sense it copies the data into the temporary data, TempDB, and then loops through the TempDB data. Or else key set means it will copy only few columns that are required to uniquely identify every row into the TempDB, and it will loop through that. And the dynamic means it's a dynamic one. You can clearly understand what dynamic means. It will directly loop through the data on the original table. And the fourth one is fast forward, is nothing but read only, forward only. Okay. Now these are the different options. And the third option you can set is read only or scroll logs or optimistic, which we discussed just now. And we have one more option to set, that is here after the local or global, forward only or scroll. You know this, I explained this. Forward only means it will go only in forward direction, the two row by row, that is only by using next in the direction, fetch next in the direction. And scroll means you can go back, or you can go forward or go back, or go to the first row, go to the last row, and so on. There are so many options available. And the options for this direction is you can go for the default one, and people most frequently they will go for is next, or you can go for prior record, that means the previous record, or you can go for first record, or you can go for last record, or you can go for absolute value. Absolute value means from the starting, like absolute of some 5. Let's say from starting, give me the 5th record. Next one is relative. Relative of 5 means from the current position, give me the 5th record. So you can use any of these options in the direction part, that is from next, or if it is forward only, scroll only, you can go for only next. If it is forward only, then you can go for only next option here. If it is scroll, you can go for all the remaining options. And in short, to explain the same, next will return the next row, prior will return the previous row, First will get the first row, last will get the last row. Absolute returns the row from the front of the cursor and makes the return row as the new current row. For example, if my current row is at a 10th, and if I give absolute of 5, then it will go to the 5th record in the total record set, and it will make the 5th record as the current row. And relative, from 10th record, it will go to the 5th record, that is 15th record. So that is the difference between these two. So is it clear, or do you want me to explain having more variables here? Now I am using only one variable to load the data. If you want to explain more, for example, if you have more columns, you don't need to worry anything. Let's say I have one more variable 2, and I'll make it as max. Okay, and instead of calling only, I'll make it as forward only, and I'll make it as static for I'm giving English product name as well as English product. I think this is the correct column name. Let me check it once better. English product description is not the correct one. I think it is the product description. No. I don't know the column name. English product name is there, and I'll go for color, the best one. So I'm reading 2 records now instead of 1. So I declare 2 variables. Now insert into variable 1 and variable 2. That's it. The English product name will be set to English variable 1, and color will be set to so and so. Now instead of this, I'm printing at the rate of variable 2, which means it will print the color of the product for end. Let's see how it works. It is saying incorrect syntax somewhere. Yeah, here it is. I still have this information. So let me execute this. Cursor fetch, the number of variables declared into the list does not match with the selected columns. Here it is missing. I meant to add that variable 2 in the next fetch statement. Must declare. I think this one I have to select. Now you can see the color of that particular product is NA. So the most important thing to remember is using the while with at the rate of fetch status, and you have to include one more fetch statement inside the while loop, or else it will loop through the same record and it will return the same data, and there will not be any end to that. And let's see, here I'm opening the cursor, right? Let's see cursor rows, whether it gives the number of rows or not. The cursor rows, I told you, this is meant for showing how many products are there. It is showing 600. That is the value of the @ cursor rows. So this is how we can make use of the functions @ cursor rows and @ fetch status. And most of the people say that cursors are performance issues or bottlenecks to the performance, but still there are some places where you have to go for cursors, and which this is the best for most of the situations. Like if you want to execute a stored procedure, let's say looping through and checking some condition, you have to execute a stored procedure. You have to call a stored procedure. The best way is going for cursors. So there are advantages as well as disadvantages for cursor, and whenever people ask questions about performance, they will expect that I avoid cursors as answer. I don't know why. I don't know why they hate cursors that much, but still, yeah, true. It's a performance bottleneck, but at the same time, it has its own advantages. So that's it for today's session, and in tomorrow's session, we're going to discuss about stored procedures, functions, temporary tables, and table variables. Thank you, guys.